Hi guys, and welcome back to another VGC 2019 Sun Series Pokemon guide, and in today's guide we'll be looking and covering the Pokemon Groudon. So in our last episode that we had on the guide series, we covered Kyogre, so what better way to lead on from that is its partner in crime from the Ruby and Sapphire series in Groudon. So let's get into it. Now Groudon, for those of you that played 2016 and are used to Primal Groudon, you've kind of got a little bit of adjusting to do, because Primal Groudon had that fire typing with it. It was a lot stronger as well. But Groudon only is a ground type, so that's, you've got to just adjust to that. If you were used to, or you remember playing 2016, and you kind of relying on those memories, those resistances that Primal Groudon has, Groudon doesn't have those same resistances, so it might just take a little bit of adjusting for those of you that didn't play 2016 at all. Then you've got no problem just relying on the fact that Groudon is a ground type. It has the ability Drought, which brings the sun to the field for 5 turns as soon as it's summoned, and it has a 670 base stat total, which is humongous and no surprise for a restricted Pokemon. We've got 100 base HP, 150 attack stat, 140 defense stat, 100 special attack, 90 defense and 90 speed. So very good showings across the board, but the ones that stand out obviously are that attack stat and the defensive stat, and they're the ones that you really want to be exploiting with Groudon to get the most out of it. You can see from the resistance, weakness, immunities table down below that Groudon, because of its ground typing, it is weak to water, grass and ice, has immunity to electric, and resists the nice type in poison and rock. So pairs well with a lot of other restricted Pokemon with those resistances, namely Ho-Oh is one that I really like. The synergy between Groudon and Ho-Oh, because Groudon brings the sun, it helps protect Ho-Oh from water type attacks and things like that, and Groudon acts as a nice switch in for Ho-Oh as well, being immune to electric type attacks and the rock typing as well, that really both threaten Ho-Oh quite severely. Other than that though, it partners well with fairies obviously, because they're weak to poison, and the ground typing is really nice as well, as a stab attack against steel types that threaten those poor little fairies on the field. These tables are brought and pulled straight from Bulbapedia. I will link Bulbapedia down in the description below if you want to jump over there and check out the Groudon page for yourselves. So moving on to sets, I'm going to go through a few sample sets. We did that in the Kyogre guide, so I'm just going to go through a few sample sets from myself. This is early format, so we're not into any depth of format. The format hasn't developed yet, so these are just examples to give you ideas of how you can use Groudon, different ways you can utilize it, partners and things like that. We'll go through everything like we did in the Kyogre guide. So to start us off, I'm going to go with a 50% berry Groudon. I choose the Papa berry, but you can have whatever berry you like on Groudon. I know that's a picture of a wiki berry, but regardless, we're talking about 50% berries, and you want the more relevant ones that aren't going to confuse you, of course. But this is probably my favourite Groudon set and spread up to now. It is a sassy nature, 0 speed IV, making it as slow as possible, minus speed nature. We've got a 50% berry to recover health, an EV spread of 252 HP, 4 attack and 252 special defense. It seems pretty straightforward, but there is a couple of reasons why we go with this EV spread. One of them is making sure that we survive a Geomancy Timid, so +2 Timid Moonblast from a Xerneas, and also the other one is a Timid Kyogre Water Spout from full HP in the sun, has like a 0.4% chance to 2-hit KO, so like 99 times out of 100, even more, you're gonna prop that berry on 2 water spouts, giving you 3 turns to take down Kyogre if you can get the weather up and Groudon in full health. I do really like this Groudon. It needs Trick Room support obviously, because it is a slower variant, and you don't need as much attack investment initially because you've got the Sword Stance there to kind of boost up that attack stat and start dishing out some damage. Fire Punch, because I just feel like it's better than Rock Slide. Currently fire typing moves in this format are very strong, helps you against stuff like Ferrothorn, otherwise you'd be kind of walled against it with something like Rock Slide, Precipice Blades. And also opposing Bronzong as well, if you do see that, and that does pick up in popularity. So they're nice options there. Precipice Blades is the option. You could always go Earthquake if you wanted, depending on what partner you have decided, but I think this is probably the most optimal set for this. You could obviously go Substitute over Sword Stance, but I feel like having that ability to boost your attack and really swing momentum in your favour, if you've got Trick Room and you get that set up with a Sword Stance and maybe Gravity as well, then you're going to be like running through teams and doing a lot of damage, and that's what Groudon really wants to do. Disrupt the weather with its Drought ability and then start setting up and doing devastating amounts of damage, because Groudon, and it's such a cool design as well, I mean, look at it. So the next sample set we'll look at is going to be the Choice Band set, which I just went for a straightforward, very straightforward again. Jolly, just because we don't need any extra attack investment. I mean, you could go Adamant, but I think the speed is a little bit nicer. Getting the jump on things like Modest, Tapu Lele and things like that will go on Jolly. And you could reduce the speed down a little bit if you want to, and put some investment elsewhere, defenses maybe. But to be honest, like the Choice Band Groudon, you know what you're going to be doing with it. I mean, you could go a really bulky one. You've got lots of options with what you could do. You could run Tailwind support with it. You could run Trick Room support, go bulkier. But you want to be making sure that you've got enough attack investment to make use of that Choice Band. Here I've just went very straightforward. 4 HP, 252 attack, 252 speed, Precipice Blades, Rock Slide, Fire Punch and Thunder Punch for coverage. So they're just some examples for you guys to try out. And one thing about Choice Band Groudon, if you've got Follow Me support or something like that, it can really catch your opponent off guard with the damage output that you're going to be throwing out with Groudon with the Choice Band as well, and the speed as well, because a lot of times people will expect Groudon to be a lot slower, so just having the jump on your opponent sometimes can give you an advantage in a match, and that can be the difference between winning and losing sometimes. Next set we're going to look at is an Assault Vest set. It is Adamant Nature, 252 HP, 156 attack, 4 defense, 60 special defense. That should be, I'm so sorry guys, that is a big error from myself, special defense and 36 speed. So there we go, we'll change that up there. We've got Precipice Blades or Earthquake again. You've got Fire Punch, Rock Slide and Thunder Punch again, coverage. It's a bit like the move set for the Choice Band set, but with the Assault Vest you're going to be taking attacks all day long on the special spectrum, and because it's a huge defense stat anyway, you don't really need to boost that any more than it is. You're going to be taking attacks like a beast. So the Assault Vest I haven't tested yet in this format, but I do feel like it's probably got a place in the format, definitely. The next sample set we will look at is an Iron Ball Groudon set. So depending on how popular Groudon becomes as a Slaw Groudon, a Trick Room Groudon, you could always go for a Brave Iron Ball Groudon. It does give you that lower, you know, you're going to be underspeeding with a 0 speed IV and a minus nature. You're going to be underspeeding all minus nature base 45 Pokemon, so that's pretty nice. That is pretty nice. It's still quite bulky. You've got 252 HP just to maximize bulk as much as you can, 228 attack just to maximize your attack power, 4 defense and 24 special defense. Precipice Blades or Earthquake, Fire Punch I'd say is a staple on there. Rock Slide, Thunder Punch. I'd even go Sword Stance or Substitute and Protect you won't on this set, I feel. So it really would cater to your team though. And this is the thing, I'm just giving you examples of how you can run Groudon and how it can operate in certain teams. If you need your Groudon, for example, to be underspeeding Dustman and Necrozma, then this is a nice option for that. And you don't need to go as slow, but like if you're going slow, you may as well go as slow as you can with the Iron Ball. That would be my thinking behind it. So it's a nice option. Dustman and Necrozma tend to set Trick Room up, so if they set the Trick Room up, you get Groudon in, you're going to be hitting it before it can touch you, which is always nice. It's always good to be hitting your opponent before they can hit you, and that's one of the big things that a lot of people miss out on Pokemon. So going on to our next sample set is going to be a Choice Spec set. It's a little bit different, but why not? It's got 100 base stat attack, special attack, so it's not the worst. It's not amazing, but you can still make use of it, and again it will catch your opponents off guard because they're going to be expecting physical Groudon. They're going to probably try and utilize Intimidate support if they got it, so having a special Groudon can sometimes be the difference between winning and losing. Again, with the EV spread, haven't really went for anything fancy, it's just a sample set. Timid Nature just to maximize speed. You've got Eruption, Earth Power, Hidden Power Ice, and Flamethrower T-Ball are your last options. But you've got to look at Groudon as well. Look at its move pool because it's got so many different options. I've just went for the ones that I would say pick out as the more optimal ones that you would want on the set. You can obviously pick and choose what would fit well around your team. So that's one option there. And the Specs Timid Eruption is pretty strong as well. So if you haven't tested it out, it's worth trying it. And I would advocate testing every single variant of Groudon, Kyogre, all the restricted Pokemon, and try and learn all about how they play, what are their best features, how can they operate in different teams, different situations, things like that. That's how you're going to learn, and that's how you're going to get better. So just a little tidbit there for myself. And the last sample set that we're going to look at is obviously going to be the Choice Scarf set. We could look at Life Orb as well, that's always an option, but I didn't feel like I really want to overload this guide here. So the Choice Scarf set is my last one. You've got Choice Scarf Kyogre, so why not go for and try Choice Scarf Groudon. You've got two options here. You've got Adamant or Modest, so you can go Special Choice Scarf or you can go Physical. So respective sets are obviously the Precipice, Blaze, Earthquake, Fire Punch, Rock Slide, Thunder Punch, or Eruption, Earth Power, Hidden Power, Ice, Flamethrower, T-Ball. So they pretty much do the same thing, just one's a special spectrum, one's a physical spectrum. Obviously their natures are relevant, so they're just two options you can. And again, it's going to be one of those things that does throw your opponent off guard. Maybe they don't have answers to Scarf Groudon, which is something that can really exploit your opponent's weaknesses. I don't think many people would expect Scarf Groudon. I personally don't think it's very optimal playing Scarf Groudon. I don't think you're getting the most out of it, but you know, for those, like if it fits in your team, I will always advocate that. If it fits in your team and it supports the rest of your team, how it functions, then why not use it? So you can't discount any ideas, but that's so there's just some nice sample sets for you there. Now we'll move on to partners for Groudon. So good partners for Groudon. One is obviously going to jump out as Tapu Koko. Ability Electric Surge, typing Electric Fairy, so it helps combat against those threatening water type attackers that would threaten Groudon. It's got that fast pivot for board switching, and it's going to really allow you to reposition board position and weather control. So if you've got Tapu Koko Groudon out on the field and you know your opponent's going to switch in Kyogre or another weather, you can switch Groudon out, and then you can Volt Switch with Tapu Koko and then pull Groudon back in and overwrite the weather and get the weather control back in your favour. That fast Volt Switch is so useful. I used it in 2014 on my Scarf Zapdos to primarily be a weather pivot almost, to control the weather. I had Politoed, I had T-Tar, and I always knew I could get the Volt Switch off before anything else on the field could move, and it would allow me to just dictate the weather. And it works similarly to Tapu Koko here, you're just not restricted by a Choice Scarf. So they're really nice options there. Moving on to another partner in crime is going to be Cresselia, very popular partner with Groudon. We've seen it every year that it's been in format. It's always partnered well with Cresselia. Cresselia complements it very nicely with its Levitate ability, its Psychic typing. It works well with the Earthquake. It's got speed control options and Icy Wind and Trick Room, so very versatile. Skill Swap for the weather control as well. It also has Moonlight for nice recovery, which is, you know, it benefits from that drought ability of the sun, recovering like 75% health when the sun's out. And if you want to also lose any friends, you've got Ally Switch as an option to avoid any threatening attacks with Cresselia. So I do like Cresselia a lot with Groudon. It's something I haven't tested this year, but it's obviously going to be very good. It's always very good. And Cresselia in a format where there's no Z moves and no Megas is going to be extremely strong. And I don't think people have really jumped on that yet. I think there are a lot of Ghost type and Dark type in the format being used, but I think Cresselia can get around that and can still do a very good job in a format, like I say, without Z moves and Megas as well. Overpowering. I know we got restricted, but you know, I think Cresselia can do an amazing job. Anyway, moving on to other partners, we've got Bronzong, one of my favourites, and one that we will be playing on the channel this week. So do keep an eye out for the School of Hard Knocks this week. We'll be kicking off with a Groudon Xerneas and Bronzong team. So it'll be very good. Bronzong, I would always go Heatproof on a Groudon team. Because you're bringing the sun, you know, those fire type attacks coming onto you are going to be more super effective. It is Psychic Steel type. It's not to discount you running Levitate, that's always an option, but I just personally prefer Heatproof. Kind of benefits from how the team is built and is operating. You've got Trick Room support with the Bronzong, you've got Gravity support, which is the big thing for those Precipice Blades. They're not the most accurate attacks, so just making sure that you're hitting every turn with those is really key. With Gravity as well, you've got the option of Hypnosis with Bronzong, which is pretty nice. It's a Steel typing as well, which hits great against those fairy types. And skill swap options again, like the Cresselia for weather control, etc., if that's the road you want to go down. Other partners are going to be Ludicolo. I feel like Ludi is a very good partner for Groudon. Pairs nicely. It's got really good defensive synergy for the big weather war between Groudon and Kyogre, and Ludi with that swift swim ability just eats up Kyogre for breakfast, really. It's got fast fake out support as well, and it's just generally nice. It can sit next to Groudon as well if you want to go Earthquake, and it's not going to take too much damage either. So I do like Ludi. It's a nice option. It's something that you have to think about as well. And finally, we'll wrap up the partner section of this guide with Tapu Fini. So Tapu Fini, Misty Surge ability and Water Fairy typing. Misty Surge ability is really nice because you've got to remember that Groudon is a ground type. It can be burnt now. It's not got that fire type to protect it. Can be burnt, so a burnt Groudon is not a great Groudon unless you're running the special variant. So that's one thing that's really nice, Tapu Fini. The other thing is if you're running a Trick Room variant of Groudon, Amoonguss is a popular Pokemon, and it can be so problematic if you get the Trick Room set up with Groudon and Amoonguss. You've got nothing to protect the Groudon from spores. It can just put you to sleep, and you don't really want that, where Tapu Fini comes in with the Misty Surge and protects you against that. So it's really nice. It's also a nice switch into big water type attacks that are threatening to Groudon, ice type attacks as well. It's a bulky water Tapu Fini. It offers heal pulse support as well, which is super nice, and you can also go down the swagger support. Power creeping Groudon that way with the Misty Terrain as well, kind of doubling up there and boosting Groudon up. So if you went down that route, you could make use of Substitute, because I feel like Sub, you could get away with taking a few attacks, maybe swagger yourself in between that, get boosted up, and then you got heal pulse as well to get around losing any damage in the process. So yeah, I do really like Tapu Fini. It's one of the ones I haven't tested again yet this season with Groudon, but it's definitely one that I want to try out. I think it's a very nice combo between the two of them, and Groudon obviously has very nice synergy with it, protecting Fini from those big powerful electric type attackers that would be quite threatening otherwise. Right, and now we're going to wrap up this guide with threats and counters. So obviously Groudon being a ground type, it is going to be threatened by grass types. Ludicolo with its grass knot, and Tapu Bulu, surprisingly, is going to be doing so much damage with that wood hammer under grassy terrain. It's very threatening. I have put Ferrothorn and Kartana in this section because they can hit Groudon for really good damage, although Groudon can threaten them with things like Fire Punch, and with Intimidate support and the right defenses, you can take the attacks from those two and KO in return. But at the same time, if you don't position yourself well and don't support Groudon well enough, these two can actually do a lot of damage. Ferrothorn under Trick Room is not something Groudon wants to face without the right support, and those power ups are going to be doing a lot of damage. And the same can be said with Kartana out of Trick Room, obviously. Bulky water types are going to be very difficult for Groudon to deal with, very defensively bulky, hard for Groudon to hit, super effective, and they're going to threaten Groudon back with big water type attacks that are going to do massive chunks of damage to it. So Groudon doesn't like facing them. Palkia, namely, one of them. Gastrodon as well, and Tapu Fini obviously, because they all cause it a lot of issues. So resistant walls. Ho-Oh is if you're not running Rock Slide on Groudon, I don't know how many Groudons are going to be running Rock Slide, but Ho-Oh can wall Groudon outright. If Groudon is just running Precipice Blades and Fire Punch and there is no option for Gravity there, then Ho-Oh will just have a field day. It can Sacred Fire in the sun, it can burn Groudon, it can just do all sorts of shenanigans, and Ho-Oh is seriously bulky. Without the proper support, Ho-Oh will just run through Groudon pretty easily. Cresselia I'll put up there as well, especially if it's got some sort of recovery option as well. It can just keep Psychicking, Ice Beaming, Moonlighting, doing all sorts of really disruption, and it's not taking any damage from those ground type attacks that Groudon primarily relies on. And then you're looking at the other weather disruption Pokemon. So you've got Tyranitar, Alolan Ninetales. Got to be scared of it because it is a lot faster. It can outspeed. It can throw out blizzards and do a lot of damage to Groudon. And then you've got Kyogre, which is obvious, and then a Bomb of Snow as well. So yeah, that wraps it up. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview and introduction to Groudon. It is just a basic guide. It's just to give you guys a few ideas on how you can move forward with Groudon, options you can take into team building, and just a few things to think about when using Groudon, and the things that you need to make sure that you're looking at to check. Obviously, I've mentioned a few of the weaknesses, threats, and counters to Groudon in this list below, but this is not the entirety of the list. The list would go on and on and on and on and on. It's got a lot of weaknesses, a lot of things that threaten it, so you need to, these are the majority, these are the things that you need to look at covering when you're playing Groudon, and making sure you have solid answers for, solid switch-ins too, so you can make the most out of your Groudon when you're playing it. I hope you found this guide useful. Please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we will be back with another Sun Series guide very soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time, bye bye!